5 most important concepts from the Indian Partnership Act 1932 for CA Foundation Law exam. Students, up till now we have discussed the important concepts from various other acts of your syllabus. In today's session, we are going to discuss 5 concepts on which maximum times questions have been asked in the exam. You must study these concepts because I'm very sure one question will be asked on these concepts. So let's get started. I'm using my chart book, which is not only a revision book, but it is also a writing practice book. You can find this chart book on my website, capreetyagarwal.com. First, the concepts have been revised, and then I have provided space to write and practice these concepts. So you will be writing all the keywords, important sentences. You will try to recall the provision. That is the best writing practice book for CA Foundation. I also have lectures, the writing practice batch, which revolves around the chart book. So what we do is we first go through all the concepts. Okay, we revise the concept. Yes, we revise the concept from the chart book, and then we write and practice. Okay, after you write and practice, I give you homework questions which you solve on your own and you send it to me for checking. So in my writing practice batch, I will first revise the concept with you. Then we will write and practice in these blanks that I have provided, and also solve important questions which you will get. I will send it to you after checking and discuss the performance. Okay, so it is a good way to write and practice all the important concepts. You can find this chart book on my website, capreetyagarwal.com. The revision batch is also available. You can enroll for that by visiting my website, capreetyagarwal.com. The first concept which I have identified today is the rights and liabilities of a minor. Okay, section 30 covers this. So section 30, it is very, very important for exam. Basically, a theory question is asked, but yes, case-based questions can also be asked on this concept. Let us go through the provisions quickly. Now see, this chart will actually help you to revise as well as it is possible to learn the entire chart, and you can just elaborate this in the exam. The chart book will make learning very simple, very easy. Now, can a minor be admitted? Yes, can a minor be admitted as a partner? Ideally, no, because partnership is the result of an agreement and minor cannot enter into an agreement. However, there are certain exceptional cases where minor can be admitted as a partner. There are certain requirements also. The first is that you need the consent of all the partners. Okay, so with the consent of all the partners, minor can be admitted for the benefit of the firm. It means that he can be admitted only for the profits. He will share the profits, he will not share the loss. He can be admitted for the benefits of the firm, but I don't think that is absolutely right, because he does share the loss, but up to his share in profit and property, he is personally not liable. Okay? So yes, what will you write in case a question is asked on position of a minor as a partner? You will first write section 30, because this is important to be mentioned in the exam. You will get good marks only when you write the section number for this particular concept. If a question is asked on minor, you have to compulsorily write the section number. So you will write the section number. You will say that the contract with minor is void ab initio. Mohri Bibi versus Dharmodas Ghosh is the name of the case law which you will mention. You can also write it in your own words that minor cannot be a partner, as partnership is the result of an agreement and minor cannot enter into an agreement. Any agreement with minor is void ab initio. Mohri Bibi versus Dharmodas Ghosh. Now, ma'am, why haven't you written all those details in the chart book? This chart book is actually to help you recall that please write about void ab initio. My main law book, okay, my main law book will have all the provisions. So how will you write? See this. This is how you will elaborate. See, I am not marketing and selling my books. I am just telling how you can incorporate the knowledge that you have gained from these books and frame the answer on your own. Okay. So see this. Right. Search. So these are my lecture notes. So minor as a partner, minor is incapable of entering into a contract. An agreement with minor is void ab initio. Mohri Bibi versus Dharmodas Ghosh. So see how my main law book and my chart book is linked. Yes, I have followed the same flow. Any agreement with minor is void ab initio. Mohri Bibi versus Dharmodas Ghosh. Partnership is formed as a result of an agreement. Minor cannot enter into a partnership agreement. However, Minor may be admitted only with the consent of all the partners and for the benefits of the firm. An agreement which is executed through his guardian. See, I have mentioned that in the chart book also, executed through his guardian. See this again. Let's go to the main book. The following points must be noted. That is, partnership must be in existence. It must be with the consent of all the partners, and he can be admitted only for the benefits of the firm. Partnership must exist before the admission of a partner. So the flow is the same. So if you have studied my main law book, chart book can act as a beautiful way to revise the concept. Once you have revised the concept, it is time to write and practice. So see over here, minor as a partner. We will write and practice what are the rights and liabilities of a minor before attaining majority, after attaining majority. So this book is actually going to help you to revise, recall, write and practice. Okay. And this is how we study in the revision lectures also. We first revise the concept because you cannot just start writing. You have to revise the concept and only then write and practice. Now, so any agreement with a minor is void ab initio. Minor cannot be a full-fledged partner unless it is with the consent of all the partners and for the benefit of the firm. Partnership must exist. It means that minor can be admitted only in an existing firm. You cannot admit a minor in a new firm. It means you cannot form a partnership with a minor. What are the rights and liabilities of minor before attaining majority? So rights and liabilities of a minor partner before attaining majority. Of a minor, you can write over here partner before attaining majority and after attaining majority. So yes, he is entitled to the agreed profits and property. He has a right to access, inspect, take copies of the books of accounts. He has also a right to file a suit, but only when he is not given a share. This right can, however, be exercised only when he decides to leave the firm. He is personally not liable to the third party. He cannot be declared insolvent on the firm's insolvency. After attaining majority, he gets all the rights and liabilities now of a full-fledged partner. He is now personally liable. He was liable earlier also, but the liability was limited to his share in the profit and property. Now, he is personally liable. But for all the debts which were contracted right from the time when he was admitted as a partner, he has now the right to share in the profit and property, the same ratio that he was sharing when he was a minor. This is important for exam, that he is liable not from the date when he turned a major. He is liable for all the debts which are still outstanding and they were taken when he was a minor. Okay, so the debts was taken when he was a minor, but they're still outstanding. So now he will be personally liable. See, liable he was earlier also, but the liability was limited. Now he is personally liable. But what if he decides not to become a partner? Then rights and liabilities remain same up to the date of public notice. Giving public notice is important. If you don't want to continue, you have to give a public notice. I have mentioned that over here also. Within 6 months of attaining majority, he has to decide whether he wants to continue as a full-fledged partner or not, and he has to give a notice. If he fails to give a notice, we will assume that he has agreed to continue as a partner. Within 6 months, he has to give a notice. If he decides not to become a partner, give a public notice. Now, you are entitled to sue the partners if they are not giving you the share of profit and property. You are not liable for the acts of the firm done after the date of public. Okay. So, this was the part which I feel is important for exam, very important for theory question. The next thing which I feel is important for exam are these acts which are within the implied authority and which are there is some kind of statutory restriction. Okay. So authority means capacity of a partner to bind the other partners by his act. Now this authority may be either express authority or implied. Implied means it is given by law. If you are a partner, law assumes you can perform these acts. Now we don't give unlimited powers to a partner. Okay, we don't give him unlimited powers. We say that these are the acts which you alone cannot perform. You need the consent of the other partner. So this is, according to me, important for theory question. Okay, so this can be asked as a theory question. There is nothing over here. You just have to learn this. Okay, so how will you learn? Now, these are the acts which are within the implied authority. Means as a partner, you have the right to perform these acts. You have the right to buy goods. If you are buying goods, you also have automatically the right to sell the goods. If you have bought the goods, you will have to make payment to settle the accounts. If you have sold the goods, you can receive the payments and issue receipt. As a partner, you can also engage servants. It means you can engage employees for your business. You can engage a lawyer. You need not ask the other partners for it. You can borrow money, pledge movable property, draw, accept, endorse bill of exchange. And because of your act, the other partners will be liable. But we are not giving you unlimited powers. As a partner, you cannot on your own perform these acts. You cannot submit a dispute to arbitration. without asking. Out of court settlement is not possible without asking the other partner. You cannot open a bank account in your own name. You cannot compromise or relinquish any claim. You cannot withdraw a proceedings which is filed on behalf of the firm. You cannot admit a liability. You cannot acquire immovable property on your own. You have to ask the other partners. You cannot transfer it on your own. You need to enter into partnership on behalf of the firm. So for this, you need the consent of other partners. Now, what if a third party enters into the transactions which are restricted? Okay. So if I'm entering into a transaction which there is some kind of statutory restriction, the third party, you are supposed to know about these statutory restrictions. You cannot say, I don't know the law of my own country. This is given in the act itself. The firm is not liable to the third partner. Okay. But if the restriction is imposed by the partners between themselves, then the firm is liable only when the third party is not aware of those restrictions. Right? So this is, according to me, important. Then let's go to unit 2. And over there is section 16. Yes. This section 16 is very important for case study question. Okay. Now, what is mentioned in section 16, the section number is also very important. It is duty to account for and pay to the firm any personal profit. What is the key word over here? Key word is personal profit. See, partnership relation is based on trust and confidence. It's a fiduciary relation. If you are trying to earn personal profit as a partner, you're trying to earn personal profit. How? From any transaction of the firm. You're telling the person that I will give you the order if you give me commission. Or you bought it for 100 rupees and you're telling the firm I bought it for 110 rupees and you're keeping 10 rupees as profit. If you are using the property of the firm and you're gaining personal profit, or you're gaining profit from business connection, or you're gaining profit from the firm's name, then please return that profit. Account for means you have to account for that profit. How much did you earn? And you have to pay it to the firm. I'll give you an example to understand this. A, B, C, D, they are many partners. Now, they have started a new business of refining sugar. Okay, they are in the business of refining sugar. Now, A is a wholesale grocer. So we have told A that you know the prices of sugar. You have a grocery store. You purchase the sugar which we will refine. Now A knows that the price of the sugar is going to increase subsequently. In 2-3 days it is going to increase. He said, yeah, I will buy. Now he has already purchased sugar at a lower price for his business. When the price actually increases, he supplies that sugar which he had purchased at lower price to the firm at a higher price, thus earning personal profit. We say that please account for that profit to the firm. You cannot earn personal profit from such business transaction. Okay. So partnership is the relation of trust, confidence. It is a fiduciary relation. We cannot allow them to earn. Next is right of the transferee. I have already highlighted section 29 as very important for exam. Now A, B and C, they are partners. C transferred 70% of his interest to D. Now this he is doing without the consent of A and B. Why should we accept him as a partner? But because C has already transferred, we can't do anything about it. So law says that, okay, you don't like this transferee. See, because, partnership is again a relation of trust and confidence. We like to work with people whom we are comfortable with. We don't want to work with D. We don't like him. But because C has already transferred, then we have no option but to accept him as a partner. However, C transferee, you are not entitled to interfere with the conduct of the business of the firm. You cannot go through the accounts. You cannot inspect the books of the accounts. You only accept the profit that we are giving you. Okay, you can only accept the profits which we have agreed. So in this case, we don't allow him to interfere in the conduct of the business of the firm. We don't give him the books of accounts. We don't trust him and we don't allow him to inspect the books. Only accept the profits as we have given you. Okay, yeah, but in case the transferor retires or he leaves the firm, then, or the firm is dissolved, then we will allow you to go through the books of accounts to decide whether your share is calculated properly or not. This is the only thing which is expected by the examiner. This is the only thing which you need to write in the answer. Okay, if it is a theory question or a case based, very frequently asked in the exam, this is the only thing that you need to write. Yes, at the time of retirement of that partner or dissolution, then you will be entitled to receive the share of assets after inspecting the accounts. Okay, so I've simplified everything for you. Next, and very important, registration. Yes, what are the consequences of non-registration? And non-registration does not affect. Now, registration is totally optional. There is no penalty for non-registration. However, there are certain disabilities which make registration desirable. Now, if you are an unregistered partnership firm, you cannot file a case against the other partners if they don't give you your share of profit or they don't allow you to exercise certain rights. You cannot file case against the third party, but the third party can file case against you. However, this disability can be removed by getting the firm registered before filing the case. No right to claim set off in excess of 100 rupees. So this I'm sure you are aware of. However, this is also very important for exam. Even if the partnership is not registered, these rights are not affected. See, even if it is an unregistered firm, third party can file a case. Yes. So third party can sue. Partners can file a case for dissolution. You can also file a case to recover the property at the time of dissolution. So if a debtor is not paying money, I can file a case because the firm is now getting dissolved. Official assignee or receiver, they can sell the property. Realize means to sell the property. And if the third person is not paying, we can file a case. And you can also claim set off if it is less than 100 rupees. Okay, it does not exceed means it is less than. So this is important for theory question. Okay, very important for theory question. All right, students. So these were the 5 most important concepts which are very frequently asked in the exam. I have left a link of all the earlier sessions in the description box. In case you have missed the important list of concepts, then you can go and watch it. For CA Foundation lectures, books and test series, do visit my website papreetyagarwal.com and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications for such important videos. If you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe to this channel and encourage me to make more such informative videos for you. Alright students, so I take your leave. But before that, do subscribe and visit my website capreetyagarwal.com.